Hey, this is Jason here with Divine Frustrations, and I had a very interesting exchange the other day with a student at the college where I teach. We bumped into each other and had a very engaging conversation. And somehow we got on the topic of the book I recently wrote, Divine Frustrations, and also talked a little bit about the website. And while we were doing so, he was prompted to share a frustration that he has been dealing with. And so I thought I would address that because it's something that I imagine not only he, but many others are facing or have faced at one point or another. And what he began to describe was a situation where someone that he knows is dealing with a difficult time. And so he was thinking about the passage in the New Testament. This is a Christian student. And so he's thinking about the passage in the New Testament that says we are to carry each other's burdens and in this way fulfill the law of Christ. Some translations say bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So, what he basically began to say was that he was, struggling with the idea of trying to live up to God's expectations. Anyone who is familiar with the New Testament knows that there are a lot of teachings about how to live, about how to please God, about how to honor God and honor others. In the Sermon on the Mount alone, there are a lot of different teachings that Jesus presented to his followers at that time. And so, what this young man was presenting was just the frustration over the challenge of living up to God's expectations when it comes to being involved in the life of someone else who's having a difficult time. And that is certainly understandable. When we think about all the problems and pains and struggles we have, and then the challenge to involve someone else in that, to receive someone else into our lives in a personal way, and to receive that help, and in some cases be the givers, the providers of that help to someone else who may be having a difficult time. And there are different challenges that can come with that. It can be emotionally taxing, it can be draining, it could even be traumatizing in some cases. When we get involved in the lives of other people who are dealing with something difficult, and if someone desires to live up to that teaching that encourages one person to bear or carry the burdens of another, then there are certainly some challenges that can come along with that. So, a couple of different perspectives on it. Number one, this could very well be one of the reasons why there is such an emphasis on grace in the New Testament. The New Testament has a lot to say about grace. My grace is sufficient for you, were the words of Jesus to the Apostle Paul when he was struggling and having a difficult time. Believers are encouraged to grow in grace. Believers are told that we're saved by grace. And so there is an emphasis on grace in the New Testament. And one of the reasons for that is because we know that there is an inherent inadequacy that we have when we attempt to live up to God's standards, his ideals, his expectations. And that is not a reflection on the overwhelming nature of those teachings. It's more a reflection of human nature and just the state in which humanity lives. Even the most devout, the most pious, the most ardent believer will still at some point or another struggle with something, will have a difficult time living up to God's expectations in some area. And this is where grace comes in, because grace is a reminder that God still cares about the heart, the efforts, the intentions, the mindset of the individual. And God is not after perfection, but he is after growth. He does desire for his people to continue to grow in the grace and knowledge of his son. And he also encourages believers to grow in their understanding of spiritual things. So growth is the basic expectation, not perfection. And so if someone is striving to grow, that is one of the ways in which they can rest assured that they are pleasing to the Lord. Another consideration to be mindful of is that bearing someone else's burden can develop greater empathy within us. It can help us to see things from others' perspective. It can lead us to being less selfish. It can lead us to becoming more loving and more giving and more caring, because we realize that people are facing some very real and challenging circumstances in life. And if we are not experiencing those same things, one of the ways that we can show up for them and be present with them and help them is by getting involved, carrying their burdens, or at least helping to carry their burdens and help them to get through whatever it is they are dealing with. And, in my experience as a counselor, this has been one of the most rewarding aspects of that work, is going on that journey with someone towards healing, towards growth, um, towards making progress and getting better, and just moving forward with their lives. And so the idea of carrying someone's burden is truly significant. It's one of the most meaningful things we can do, while we're on this planet, is strive to help others in those dark moments that they face. Because we know in reality that if that's us, or when that's us, we want someone to be there for us and to help us in whatever way that they can. So it's like that saying, one person can't do everything, but everybody can do something. And sometimes the most meaningful thing we can do is just do whatever we can for that person who's dealing with that burden, and seeing them in some way or another make some kind of progress, move forward in some, even if it's a small way, but just knowing that we were, if as much as possible, there for them and trying to be of help and service to them. So hopefully this is an encouragement, because people who work in the helping professions, and people who work in nonprofits and strive to give of their lives and help and service to others, knows that sometimes it can be taxing, and can even lead some people to burn out when they're constantly giving of themselves to others. And that's why they do have to prioritize balancing out that service to others, as well as the self-care that they need for themselves. So this command, this teaching to carry the each other's burdens, with the challenges that it presents, it also presents rewards, not only for the person who's providing the help, but for the recipient of that help. And hopefully that perspective can be helpful, not only to the young man that I had that conversation with, but also anyone else who is willing to try to be of help and service to someone else in their time of need. I talk about other frustrations in the book, Divine Frustrations, and if you're interested, visit the website, www.divinefrustrations.com. And as I hear more, I will share more videos and provide more updates.